As I sat at my desk, I found myself thinking about the last 30 years with my wife, especially our honeymoon. I was remembering the best moments of my life, like those unforgettable days in Florida with Jocelyn. Thinking about that trip makes me feel nostalgic and grateful. It was such a magical experience that it still feels like it happened yesterday. One of my fondest memories is from the very beginning. It felt like we had left the worries of the world behind, entering a serene, peaceful space. Hand in hand, we strolled along Clearwater Beach with the warm waves gently lapping at our feet. The scent of jasmine filled the air, wrapping us in a sense of romance and calm. It wasn't just the beautiful scenery that made that time so special. It was the experiences we shared, like hiking through thick forests and stumbling upon hidden waterfalls. This gave us an appreciation for the wonder of nature. As we stood there, marveling at the raw power and beauty around us, it felt like we were in sync with the world. Our cozy beachside cottage was the perfect place to unwind. The cottage in Key West had the most incredible views of the sunsets every evening. The sky was a canvas of colors, and as we held each other close, we were filled with nothing but love and devotion. The nights were pure magic, starting with dinners under the stars on the beach, enjoying fresh seafood and local delights. But it was Jocelyn's gentle smile that each moment was unforgettable. That trip wasn't just a vacation, it was a celebration of our love. It was filled with memories that continued to live within me. Lost in thought, I was suddenly interrupted by my secretary. She smiled, noticing my good mood, and joked, "Did you win the lottery or something?" I laughed and explained that my wife had been incredibly. I've been feeling really appreciated recently, in ways I hadn't for years. It's almost like we're on a second honeymoon. For the first time in ages, I've been thinking about Jocelyn all the time. I've been calling her several times a day just to hear her voice. It's made me feel like a giddy teenager again. I was really happy and didn't want that feeling to end. Jocelyn and I have had a strong marriage, but after 3 decades things can fall into a routine. Lately, though, she's been more affectionate and craving closeness almost every night. She's even brought back some old habits we had when we were younger. I didn't question this newfound surge in affection. I thought it was just a lovely way to strengthen our bond, so I left work early to plan a romantic surprise for her. I bought 24 roses, wrote a heartfelt note, and grabbed her favorite wine along with a box of chocolate-covered strawberries. Tonight, I was going to tell her how much I loved her and surprise her with the 7-I'd booked a day cruise for us in secret, and I was excited to see her. I went up to the kitchen to find Jocelyn, but it was our daughter Sharon who was there. I gave her a kiss on the forehead and asked, "Hey sweetie, where's your mom?" Just a couple of weeks ago, they'd had a serious conversation. "Sharon, I'm not sure about this." Jocelyn had confessed that she loved my dad deeply, and was worried that going through with this would. "I know it's tough, but I'm sure your dad will understand. He loves you both, and I'm sure he'll be fine with it. You said you needed something different, and I think your dad will respect that. He's not getting any younger, but he'll understand your needs and let you have this one experience. I don't think I can stand in front of your father and tell him I'm going out with another man. It's just that I do it." Jocelyn had insisted, "Then let me handle it." Sharon had offered, "And Alex is going to meet you at the restaurant at 7:07 p.m. You'll be ready to leave by 6 o'clock. When Dad gets home, I'll be here to explain everything to him. You'll get the night you've been longing for." I agreed to the date Jocelyn had admitted, but I'm having second thoughts. It feels wrong. How can I face your father after agreeing to go out with another man? Well, Sharon had suggested you could keep it from him during these 2 weeks and show him just how much you love him. Let him see there's nothing to worry about. When I explain it all, he'll understand that this isn't about love, it's about having a little fun and making a new friend. Reach out to him. He'll feel like the man you fell in love with. When I tell him what's going on, he'll welcome you back with open arms. Trust me, Mum. Dad loves you and has always given you what you wanted. This will be no different." Jocelyn had asked, still uncertain. "Maybe you're right. It's just one night, and it doesn't mean I'm leaving your father. Having a bit of fun after 30 years shouldn't be a big deal." I'll show him just how much he means to me every night until the date. When I get back, I'll do everything I can to make him the happiest man alive. I just need to make sure he knows how much he means to me. He's a great guy, and this is going to be a one-of-a-kind experience for you," Sharon told her mother. "I've got to head home and cook dinner for Adam." "Thanks, sweetie, and say hi to Adam for me." "What are you two finally going to do?" Sharon teased. "We've already talked about it, and we're planning to start trying in a few months." Jocelyn sat alone in the art studio that Floyd had built for her in the backyard, staring at her latest project. Her creativity had been stifled by the thought of being with another man. The guilt was blocking her artistic flow until she recalled Sharon's words. Suddenly, her brush moved effortlessly across the canvas, bringing vibrant colors and emotion to life. The peace of mind made her believe she was doing the right thing. She was convinced that Floyd would ultimately understand. Sitting there lost in her thoughts, she muttered to herself, "Floyd might be upset at first, but I know I can make him understand. I truly love him. He's been such a wonderful husband and father. I wanted to show him how much he means to me, so on the first night of my plan to reignite the spark in our marriage, I slipped into his favorite baby doll nightgown right after my shower. I took extra care with my hair and makeup. When Floyd walked through the door, I greeted him in heels in that nightgown, whisking him off to the bedroom. I surprised him with something we hadn't shared in a long time, and his beaming smile filled me with warmth. "Jocelyn, that was the best homecoming I've had in years," he said, his eyes gleaming. "I just wanted to show you how much I love you and how special you are." I responded, smiling up at him. "Did you enjoy it?" "I did. It's been too long. I forgot how much I missed this," he replied, pulling me back onto the bed for more passionate kisses. That night was the most intimate we'd been in years. Over the next few weeks, Floyd seemed like a new man, happier, more affectionate, and much more engaging. It was like we had rediscovered each other, and I found myself feeling more content than I had in years. I even confided in Sharon. I told Sharon I might reconsider my date with Alex. "I don't know, honey. Maybe I don't need this experience after all. Your dad and I have found our spark again." "That's great, Mom," Sharon responded, "but maybe hold off on canceling just yet. See how the next couple of weeks go. Enjoy each other. If things stay good, you can always cancel at the last minute. I'm sure Alex will understand. Just remember this opportunity might not come around again." "Okay, maybe you're right. I can't tell yet. Tell me more about Alex. I know he's your friend's dad, but remind me about his situation." Sharon started to tell me about how when his wife Susan was diagnosed with a brain tumor, Alex dedicated himself to her until she passed. He became a recluse afterwards, battling depression and loneliness. He's had a tough time even thinking about dating again, but he's just been so lost without Susan. I listened to Sharon tell his story and something clicked in my mind. "I think I might have a solution for both of you." Sharon continued, "I told him about how much you love your dad, but how you've been wanting to reignite things in your relationship. We talked about going on a date, not for some long-term romance, but just to get to know each other better. We talked about the possibility of a long-term romance, but also about exploring friendship and maybe more." When he saw your picture, his whole face lit up. He smiled and asked if he really had a chance to take you out. I told him that once your mom hears about you and sees your photo, she won't turn down this opportunity. He did ask though, "What about your dad? Will he be okay with you going out with me, considering I'm his wife?" I told him, "Trust me, Dad would do anything to make Mom happy. You two need each other right now, and I think you could be great friends. Leave the rest to me." Sharon's words stuck with me, and the following day, Alex gave me a call after a lovely chat. He asked if I'd like to join him for dinner and spend the evening together. His compliments about my photo made me feel like a schoolgirl again, butterflies and all. I was really excited about the idea of something new, and we both agreed to meet up, although he'd offered to pick me up. I said I'd meet him at the restaurant instead. Over the next few days, our texts got more playful, and I was really looking forward to our date. My texts with Alex could have easily failed any loyalty test, but I was caught up in the excitement. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was excited about the date, but I couldn't stop thinking about Floyd. I tried to focus on the night ahead, but I was still thinking about him. Floyd was smiling, but I was secretly hoping for closeness and a kind of fulfillment that went beyond my wildest dreams. I loved Sharon. She had grown into such a beautiful woman. I was incredibly proud of her. I regretted not spending more time with her while she was growing up, but I did my best to. I tried to provide for her and be there for her as much as I could. When I saw her, I greeted her with a smile that held a touch of embarrassment. "What brings you here, and where's your mom?" I asked, setting down the 24 roses, a bottle of wine, and the box of chocolates on the table. "I've got a special surprise planned for her tonight, and I can't wait to see her reaction." Reaching into my jacket pocket, I pulled out the travel itinerary and tickets for a week. "I'm taking your mom on a 7-day cruise. I'm so excited to see her, Joy, when she finds out about the day trip I've planned for her on the new yacht, Serenity. I want it to be a surprise, so don't say a word. I want it to be a surprise." The word Daddy always tugged at my heartstrings, bringing back memories of her as a little girl, curled up in my lap. But something was off this time. I could see tears forming in her eyes, and she looked like she was struggling to speak. "Dad, we need to talk," she finally said. She said, and a tear escaped down her cheek. She was looking at me with concern, so I sat down. I braced myself for bad news. "Is everything okay with your mom?" I asked. "Mom's fine, but there's something you need to know," Sharon began. After a long pause, she continued, "Dad, you know how much Mom loves you. She's been talking. You've been getting along great lately, right?" "Yeah, and I love her. That's why I'm doing all of this." My stomach tightened as her tears flowed freely, and I could feel something terrible was coming. "I'm really sorry, Daddy." She said the words, and they hit me like a freight train. "But Mom," she went on, describing the date. I sat there in stunned silence, processing the words but not fully understanding their weight. I was in shock. Tears were flowing as I tried to make sense of what I was hearing. I demanded, "Sharon, what are you saying? Where is your mother?" My voice was rising, and she flinched at my tone. She was clearly scared by the intensity of my reaction. "Dad, please listen," Sharon pleaded. "Mom loves you, but she's out with someone else tonight, and she won't be home until tomorrow. She didn't want to tell you herself because she didn't want to hurt you. It's just for one night, and she'll be back tomorrow." I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe this was happening. Your mother would never betray me like this. We've been so happy lately. I just don't believe it. Dad, I know it's hard to hear. Sharon explained that after 30 years of marriage, her mother felt like she needed something new. It's just one night, and she'll love you even more for understanding. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. Sharon, why are you involved in this? This is between your mother and me. You shouldn't be in the middle of it. How did she drag you into this? Dad, you know that Mom and I are close. We talk about everything. Sharon explained, her voice cracking, that things had slowed down between them. You two were the ones who got her out of the house. My friend's dad lost his wife a few years ago, and he was so lonely. I thought they could help each other, so I introduced them. I shot out of my chair, knocking it over. Are you telling me you set your mother up on a date with your friend's father? Is this really true? Did you do this? Sharon cowered under the weight of my anger as I towered over her, pacing the room in disbelief. Sharon, my wife, your mother is out with your friend's dad because of you. How could you do this to me? I'm sorry, Daddy. I really am. Sharon, where is your mother, and what did you mean when you said she won't be home until tomorrow? Dad, they went to a restaurant, but I don't know which one. I was so shocked and angry, I didn't know what to think. I'd always thought her affection was genuine, but was it just to ease her guilt? Sharon, this won't end the way you or your mother think it will. I promise you that tears streamed down her face as she pleaded with me. It's not like that, Dad. She never pretended to love you. She's been doing everything she can to show you how much she cares. Can't you give her just in just one night? You've had 30 great years together. She loves you so much and can't imagine life without you. Please don't throw it all away. I'm sorry, Sharon, but the ship has sailed. It was the moment your mother agreed to go out with another man. Who is he anyway? He's my friend, Mary's dad. He's really nice, and I think you two would get along if you met. Oh, really? You think so? We'd be great friends, huh? Maybe we can start hanging out, and I can introduce you to my wife on the weekends. Is that it? Maybe we can even be drinking buddies while I watch you date my wife. Sharon sank into her chair, realizing her plan had unraveled before her eyes. She had never seen me this angry before, and my sarcasm cut deep. After pacing the room a bit longer, I finally regained some control over my emotions. Listen up, Sharon, I said, my voice filled with venom. I need you to leave now. I need to be alone to process what you and your mother have done to me. Don't call me, don't write, and don't try to reach me. You are no longer my daughter. You're dead to me. Do you understand? I'm not your father anymore. Dad, please don't say that. I love you, and I want to stay here with you tonight. Mom and I planned for me to stay so you wouldn't be alone. Please don't send me away. Leave, Sharon, I said coldly. Your level of disrespect makes me question whether you ever truly respected me as your father. You're your mother's daughter through and through. I worked hard for years to give you and her a better life. This is how you repay me. Get out. Dad, I love you, but please wait for Mom to explain everything tomorrow. You've had 30 wonderful years together. She might have one thing or two or 1,000, but she'll never have me again, I said bitterly. Forgiveness is out of the question. Everyone involved will pay, including the man who took your mother out. She left the house, tears streaming down her face, feeling pain. She'd never experienced anything like it. She never expected me to react this way. As she ran, she realized she might have made a terrible mistake by helping her mother with this plan. She'd hoped I would understand, but my fury left no room for hope. As soon as Sharon left, I called Jocelyn's number, but it went straight to voicemail. I left message after message begging her to come home, but there was no response. By 2 a.m. It was 9 p.m. I realized she wasn't coming back that night, all worn out from the emotional strain. I sat there staring blankly at the TV, though I barely registered what was on. I thought about our 3 decades of marriage, the birth of our daughter, the celebrations, and all the moments that now seemed meaningless. How could she do this to me after all those years? Gazing out the window, I saw the art studio I had built for Jocelyn 2 decades ago. It was her sanctuary, filled with her accomplishments, her paintings and sculptures. And suddenly the eye was filled with a newfound sense of resolve as I jumped off the couch. Over the next few hours, I made numerous trips to our bedroom, gathering all of her belongings, her shoes, her dresses, her jewelry, and tossing them into the studio. I even gathered all the photo albums, including the ones from our wedding, and piled them up. Then I realized that I needed to get her wedding gown, the baby clothes, and all those sentimental items from the attic. I hauled them down, adding them to the growing pile. By the time I was done, the pile of her belongings was enormous. 30 a.m. I grabbed a canister of gasoline from the garage and went out to the studio. I decided to wait until 6 o'clock to see if she'd come home to explain herself, and tried to save what was left. If she didn't show up by then, I'd have to leave. I spent the next few minutes transferring funds, canceling our joint accounts and packing a few bags. 05 My hope had burned out, just like my trust in her. I poured gasoline all over the pile of belongings in the studio, pausing for just a moment to take in what I was doing. I struck the match and watched as the flames roared to life, quickly consuming everything Jocelyn held dear. The fire spread rapidly, its orange glow visible from the street. I left before it even got that far. Driving away, I was hit by a wave of sorrow. Tears streamed down my face as I realized that, just like the studio, my once happy marriage had gone up in flames. I didn't expect the fire to jump from the studio to the back porch and ignite it too. Thankfully, the firefighters arrived quickly and managed to contain the blaze before it reached the house. The damage was extensive, and the house itself had suffered heavy smoke damage, making it uninhabitable until repairs could be made. I was shaken, so I checked into a motel about 90 miles away and paid in cash to avoid leaving a trace in case the authorities came looking for me. My adrenaline kept me awake even as I collapsed onto the bed after turning off my phone. I was so tired that I didn't wake up until noon the next day. When I turned my phone back on, it was full of notifications. There were lots of missed calls and texts from Sharon, Jocelyn, and even the sheriff. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Jocelyn got out of the Uber with Alex. She was nervous but excited. She noticed how he smiled at her little black dress, the sheer tights, and the high heels. His gaze lingered on her cleavage, accentuated by the glimpse of a black. Earlier that day, Jocelyn had spent hours at the salon making sure her hair and makeup were on point. She was determined to make this one-time encounter unforgettable. Seeing Alex's reaction filled her with confidence. She greeted him with a soft kiss and they moved to the bar where he couldn't take his eyes off her legs. Jocelyn felt a rush of excitement, something she hadn't felt in years. She decided to silence her phone to fully enjoy the evening without distractions. There was undeniable chemistry between them. They flirted like old friends, which was something she hadn't done with Floyd in a long time. By the time they finished their second drink, the hostess announced their table was ready, so they moved to their seats. The conversation flowed easily, and Jocelyn felt herself enjoying every moment. When Alex asked if she was still up for spending the night together, Jocelyn playfully slipped off her heels and ran her foot up his leg, teasing him. He smiled and declared it was time to leave. Hand in hand, they made their way to his place. They'd booked a hotel room as the elevator ascended to the 14th floor. Jocelyn had a brief moment of doubt as reality hit. Thoughts of Floyd flashed through her mind, making her hesitate. Alex pulled her close and kissed her passionately, pushing all thoughts of her husband out of her head. Tonight she was Alex's. Once inside the room, he wasted no time unzipping her dress and letting it fall to the floor. His touch sent shivers down her spine. Time seemed to stand still as the night unfolded, filled with sensual and tender. Jocelyn found herself completely lost in the moment, surrendering to the experience. Later, when Alex confessed his attraction to her, she felt a pang of guilt, but quickly pushed it aside. This night was about them. They made love again several times throughout the night, and once more in the morning. It was the most intense physical experience Jocelyn had ever had, and she felt a rush of pride for allowing herself this indulgence. The next morning, bathed in sunlight, Alex, "Jocelyn, you're an amazing woman. I think I'm falling in love with you. Can we get together again?" Jocelyn felt her heart race. "Alex," she started delicately. "Last night was incredible. You're a great guy, but I'm married and I can't do this again. It was a one-time thing. Please think about it before you say no." Alex urged. "Your husband doesn't seem to mind if you keep this up. I know I can make you happy. I'll think about it." She gave him one last kiss. As much as she enjoyed being with Alex, her heart belonged to Floyd and she hoped he could forgive her for what she had done. After breakfast, Alex drove Jocelyn home. She switched on her phone for the first time since the night before and saw a lot of missed calls and texts from Floyd. She felt guilty when she saw his messages. She had caused him so much pain and now she had to face the consequences. As Alex pulled into her neighborhood, Jocelyn's heart sank when she saw the fire trucks and police cars outside her house. The front of the house seemed intact, but she was filled with panic. "Mom, where are you?" Sharon's voice came through the phone as soon as Jocelyn answered. "I'm almost home, sweetie." "What's going on?" "There's been a fire at the house. We've been trying to reach you all night, but your phone was off." "Dad's missing?" "No one knows where he is." Jocelyn's mind was flooded with panic. "I'll be home in a minute. I'll call you back as soon as I can." Alex pulled into her street. Jocelyn saw the firefighters gathered near the house and hurried over. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she approached. "Are you the homeowner?" one of the firefighters asked, looking at her and Alex with curiosity. Yes, I'm Jocelyn Harper, she replied, her heart pounding. Well, Mrs. Harper, the firefighter replied, we managed to save most of the house. Unfortunately, the smoke damage is going to take a while to clean up. You won't be able to stay here until then. The back of the house couldn't be saved. Jocelyn's knees buckled, and Alex caught her just in time, guiding her to sit down on the curb. Is everything in the studio gone? Jocelyn asked, her voice trembling. I'm afraid so. The firefighter replied gently. We're still investigating the cause of the fire, but a police detective would like to speak with you. Jocelyn stood up shakily, heading toward the back of the house, where she was met by Sergeant Bennett. Mrs. Harper, do you have any idea what? Could you tell me what might have caused the fire? He asked. I wasn't home last night, Jocelyn replied, her voice weak. Are you her husband? The sergeant asked, turning to Alex. No, I'm just a friend, Alex answered. Do you know where your husband is? The sergeant pressed. I don't, Jocelyn admitted. Where were you last night? The sergeant asked. I was with Alex at the Hilton downtown, she answered quietly. She could feel the weight of judgment in the sergeant's eyes as she stood amidst the wreckage of her life. She had just admitted to the detective that she didn't spend the night with her husband, and now he was missing too. The detective had more questions. Mrs. Harper, are you and your husband separated? Do you have any idea where he was last night? I insisted, though the words felt ridiculous, that they were happily married. I had just confessed to spending the night with another man. When she did hear from him, she would tell him that she was married. Please give him my contact information, the detective instructed, handing me his card. I felt a rush of emotions, anger and fear. Anger at the destruction of my sanctuary and all my hard work, now lost in flame. Fear of Floyd's rage and what it might mean for our marriage. I had to find him to explain myself. I called Sharon. Sharon, have you heard from your dad? No, I haven't spoken to him since last night. Mom, why didn't you stay with him like we planned? He kicked me out and disowned me, she revealed. I could hear the fear in her voice as she said those words. They sent a chill down my spine. I'd never heard Floyd say anything like that before. If he really did disown her, it was worse than I could have imagined. When I entered the house, the smell of smoke hit me immediately. The walls were stained with soot. Our cozy home was now a disaster. It was uninhabitable until repairs could be made. I went to the bedroom to gather some clothes, but when I opened the closet, I froze. All my things were gone. My heart pounded as I rushed to my nightstand to find my wedding rings, but they weren't there. I was really worried that Floyd had seen the rings missing and assumed the worst. I looked all over the house for any sign of my belongings, but they'd all been cleared out. I had a really bad feeling about this. He'd destroyed everything. I ran to the studio, hoping against hope that some of my things had survived among the debris. I found photo frames and fragments of clothes. It was clear that Floyd had obliterated everything, severing me from. In one fell swoop, he'd destroyed my life. I called Sharon again, telling her what had happened. I didn't know where to go. Alex had offered me a place to stay, but I didn't want to see him. I needed to be alone. I'd lost your father, I sobbed into the phone. Sharon, don't say that. Dad loves you. I know he does. He burned everything. My clothes, my paintings, the studio. Everything's gone. I hurt him. I don't blame him. What I did is unforgivable. I should have talked to him instead of going on that date. Mom, don't blame yourself. You can stay with us until the house is fixed. We'll buy you new clothes and get you settled tonight, Sharon offered. But all my work, everything I've built for 20 years is gone. I lamented my tears, drawing the attention of some neighbors passing by just then. My phone rang. It was Floyd, barely able to breathe. I answered. It was Floyd. I said. Hi, Jocelyn. Floyd, please. Where are you? Come home. We need to talk. I begged. No, Jocelyn. I know everything from your daughter. Yes, it's your daughter, not mine. I'm done with you both. This might be the last time we speak. Floyd, please don't say you love me. We need to sort this out. No, Jocelyn, you plan to betray me. You gave me 2 weeks of love to ease your guilt, and then cheated with our daughter's help. There's no way to accept or forgive such treachery. Floyd, don't do this. I love you. I pleaded. This is over. Contact my lawyer for anything further. Goodbye, Jocelyn, Floyd. I screamed into the phone, but he was already gone. I collapsed onto the ground, feeling like the whole world had been ripped away. Sharon arrived just as I was calling Floyd again, tears streaming down her face as we embraced, mourning the loss of everything we held dear. We couldn't stay in the wreckage of our home, so we headed to Sharon's house. When we got there, Sharon told her husband Mike everything. He was horrified by what he heard. Sharon, you arranged a date for your mother with another man, and you knew that. How could you do that to him? He was a good man, and you've shattered him. I'm shocked and disappointed. We need to talk about ourselves now. Having children is on hold until I figure out where your values lie because I don't share them. Sharon was taken aback by Mike's anger. She hadn't expected him to react so harshly, but deep down she knew the real issue wasn't just their future, it was the collapse of her. The parents' marriage, her father's disappearance, and her mother's shattered happiness. Everything was falling apart because of one night. 5 days later, Floyd returned to the house to assess the damage. He decided not to file an insurance claim to avoid further costs. He contacted his lawyer, making it clear that the house was his, not part of the settlement. Jay would get half of their savings, but no child support, when Floyd came. A neighbor who knew Sharon from school called her, and she rushed over to the house. She found him standing in the bedroom inspecting the damage. She ran to him, embracing him tightly. Daddy, I'm so sorry. Please forgive us. We love you. I'm sorry, Dad, but I need some space right now. Mum needs you. She's really struggling. She misses you a lot. Could you come over and have a chat with her? I'm not going to speak to her again. I think our marriage ended the moment she went on that date and left her wedding rings behind. You can both contact me through my lawyer. Are you really going to end 30 years of marriage, Sharon? Both of them ruined my happiness, and I'm not going to forgive or forget that. Get out, Floyd said coldly. Sharon left in tears, devastated by her father's words. She knew that they would leave scars that no amount of time could heal. The next day, Jocelyn received divorce papers. She was overwhelmed, finally realizing that her marriage had ended because of her infidelity. She tried to reconcile, sought counseling and begged Floyd to talk, but he stayed. Mike eventually got in touch with Floyd to apologize for Sharon's involvement in the affair, but it was too late. Mike was now unsure about having children with Sharon, and they went into couples counseling to try to save their marriage. Jocelyn was hoping to move back into their rebuilt house, but the divorce papers said that it was to be given to Floyd. She received half of their savings and $3,000 a month in alimony. Floyd had ordered Jocelyn to receive $100,000 a month in alimony for 10 years. However, he had no intention of paying. As a result, Jocelyn was forced to find a job, which she hadn't done in 30 years. She moved from Sharon's apartment to a small one-room flat near the city. She took a job at a small art gallery to make ends meet. The comfortable life she had known was over, along with the marriage. She had taken the relationship for granted, and it was all because of one thrilling night. No amount of tears could wash away the regret and pain of that one affair. The man she had loved for 3 decades, the man who had built the life with her, was gone. Sharon spiraled into after her parents divorced. She went through a rough patch and sought help from a therapist. She was trying to save her marriage, but it wasn't working. A few months later, the house was fully restored and Floyd continued to make the payments that the court had ordered him to. Then, without warning, he sold the house. Jocelyn went to see him, desperate for reconciliation and forgiveness. When she rang the doorbell, a young couple opened the door. "Hello?" the woman said. "How can we help you?" "I'm looking for Floyd Harper," Jocelyn said. "Is he here?" Oh, you mean the nice man who sold us the house? No, he mentioned he was leaving the country. A fresh start. He was really kind. Are you Jocelyn? Yes, I'm Jocelyn. He left an envelope for you to give to me if I ever came by. Thanks. She was crying as she realized she would never see Floyd again. The love she had so recklessly discarded was now truly gone. She went back to her small apartment and sat on her bed, her hands shaking as she opened the letter. It was addressed to Jocelyn and said, 30 remarkable years I will forever cherish the beautiful. We had a life together. You were my first and only love. I regret that I couldn't be the husband you needed. If I had known you needed more, I would have done anything for you. But you chose to walk this path alone. So our marriage ends the same way. Those 2 wonderful weeks before your betrayal, I actually believed you had rekindled your love for me. They were the happiest weeks of our entire marriage. Learning from Sharon that you used those days to distract me from what was really happening, it shattered me that night. I came home eager to surprise you. I had planned to surprise you with a week-long yacht cruise to celebrate our love, but I discovered that your effect was just a cover for your affair. I'm utterly humiliated. Congrats, Jocelyn. You've destroyed me and our marriage. I can't stay in this city any longer. I've resigned from my job and started a new life in another country. Don't bother looking for me. I have no desire to speak to you or our daughter again. This chapter of my life is closed, and I am beginning a new one without either. It'll take me years to recover from the pain you've caused, but I'll get through it. I hope that night was worth everything we had together. I suspect it was you, and I'm sure Sharon will have plenty to talk about. Have a happy life and please forget me as I already have Floyd. Jocelyn thought she had no tears left, but after reading Floyd's letter she cried uncontrollably. She curled up on the bed, overwhelmed by the regret and sadness that had replaced the excitement and memories of her night with Alex. Now 52 and alone, she saw nothing but a bleak future ahead. One night of unselfishness had cost her everything. Meanwhile, Floyd had confronted Alex late one night before he left for Costa Rica, showing up unannounced. Floyd pushed his way into Alex's home. I'm Floyd Harper, Jocelyn's husband. You stole her from me. Alex tried to explain, but Floyd was in no mood to hear excuses. He wasn't in the mood to hear excuses. The anger and pain he'd been harboring for weeks exploded in a matter of minutes. Floyd wielded a crowbar and left Alex broken and bruised as he walked away. He warned Alex, take my advice. Messing with a married woman is bad for your health. By the time he got to the ER, Floyd was already boarding a flight to Costa Rica, where he'd be beyond the reach of U.S. law without extradition for assault charges. He was free. Alex spent weeks in the hospital and months in physical therapy, adjusting to his new life. His reconstructed knees and the 25 stitches on his face served as permanent reminders of that fateful night with a married woman. Jocelyn and Sharon were devastated by the guilt of knowing they'd caused Floyd's anguish, which only deepened their pain. They realized too late that far in the end, they had to face the consequences of their actions. They had believed that giving Jocelyn one night would keep their family happy, but it ended up destroying everything for Sharon. She lost her father's love, which was very difficult for her. Mike, her husband, nearly ended their marriage because of her involvement in the affair. However, therapy helped her come to terms with it. Her actions showed that she was committed to remaining faithful. After 2 years of proving her dedication, Mike finally agreed to start a family with Floyd. However, he cut off all communication with Sharon, effectively ending their relationship. For Jocelyn, her dreams of a happy future with Floyd and their grandchildren were shattered. Her dreams were shattered. She had to keep working just to survive. The days of luxury and comfort were gone. She traded them for a small apartment and a job at a local art gallery. The love she once knew was a distant memory, and her days were filled with loneliness and regret. 6 months after that fateful night, Floyd found himself on a beach in Costa was drinking a cold beer outside his new apartment when he thought about everything that had happened. He realized that divorce is a natural part of life. People grow apart and moving on is fine, But staying in a relationship where you are either valued nor cherished is not acceptable. He would never let that happen again.